Hey, it's gwEm and welcome back to my channel. So what I want to show this week is this thing, which is the Boss BE-5 multi-effect pedal. I just gave you a little demonstration of that, but I think it's rather good. So it's one of the first multi-effects released by Boss, and it has 5 different effects in it. It has a compressor, overdrive distortion, digital delay, a noise suppressor, and a chorus effect. And the whole thing cost me less than £100. And if you would buy even just the overdrive distortion and the delay, or the chorus, you would definitely spend over £100. So I think that this is something of a bargain for 303 owners and probably synth owners in general, because these effects, with the exception of the compressor, are all very useful for bulking up the sound of synths in productions. So I'll start by discussing each of these in turn. So the compressor is not in the slightest bit useful for the 303, or most synths actually, because they have a very constant output level anyway. It is, however, quite a nice compressor for guitar. As you can see here, I have it set with the level turned all the way down, which turns that effect into a mute switch, which is incredibly useful, because if I would use the mutes on my mixer here, that would also mute the delays. If I mute this, then I still get the delay trails, and it sounds quite a lot less jarring. So I'll quickly show you how that works. Pretty straightforward. So the overdrive distortion is basically the OS2 pedal, which we talked about in my shootout videos already. And it's a really versatile unit, and it does sound really good with the 303. You've got loads of different kind of distortion textures, and they generally sound good with the 303. I'll give you a quick demo of that. Yep, this overdrive distortion effect is definitely one of the best for 303. So let's talk about the digital delay. I'll give you a quick blast of that, and then I'll break down some of the settings. You see what I mean there about using the compressor as a mute to let the delays go through. This seems to be based on the Boss DD2 or DD3 delay, but I think it sounds a little bit different, and it definitely has different delay ranges. This goes for a much longer delay than the DD2, which goes to 800 milliseconds. This goes to 1000, so that's quite interesting. And if you read the manual, it's actually, when you're on 1000, it has a it goes into 8-bit rather than 12-bit delay. With the short delay settings, though, you can get kind of like a reverbish kind of effect, so I'll show you that. It's not quite a reverb, but if you mess with the settings, you can get it quite close. The best way, I think, to set it up is with a delay which is timed to your 303 bassline. So I'll show you how I do that. I have a special pattern set up which has starts with one bass note, and then there's two rests, and then there is a second bass note. So you've basically got two notes spaced at an interval of 3/16. And I'll just play that now. There you go. That won't win any awards for a good bass line, but it is a useful pattern for setting up your delay. So what I'm aiming for is to have the delay so that the first note delayed goes on top of the second note. So I go to the digital delay section and turn it on, and then I turn on that pattern I just showed you. I start by turning down the feedback and set the fine delay to 0. At the moment it's clearly too short, barely any delay at all. Now there's a bit more of a delay, but it's still quite short. That's nearly enough delay. It needs a bit more, so I'm going to use the fine adjustment and turn it up. So that is basically where I want to have the delay. And now when I play a complete bass line, you get a very nice effect. You can set different intervals for the delay for different kinds of effects, but I think that 3/16 setting is very nice. Excuse me. So there is the noise suppressor, which is very cool for using with that overdrive effect. It's on all the time, which is a bit annoying for guitar players. Let me turn it off first. Now the sound from the 303 is still very quiet, but if I turn on the overdrive, it won't be. There we go. You can hear that digital sound which comes from the processor on the 303. And actually it's kind of in time with the flashing of the beat LED, as you can see there. But anyway, in the studio that could be annoying. I don't really mind it because I understand why it's there, but it would be better if it didn't do it. So what I'm going to do is increase that noise suppressor knob until it stops. And there we go, perfectly quiet, even though we have a ton of overdrive. So that's nice. And then the last effect is a chorus, which I don't particularly like on guitar if it's a mono chorus, but this one is based, I think, on the Boss CE3, and it is a stereo chorus, as you can see by these two outputs. and that is very cool for synths because it gives you a very nice and wide stereo sound. So let me demonstrate that. On the more subtle settings, you don't really notice it until you switch it off, and then you just have the feeling that you want to switch it back on again. And the whole thing sounds like this. Which is definitely very cool. So there's a few other little things on the BE-5 which I'll show you quickly now. There we go. So there is the audio input. I desperately need to get a headset or some kind of lapel mic, but anyway. The second input there is a tuner output, which is handy if you need to tune your synths and you don't want to, disconnect everything to do it. So you can just plug a guitar tuner into there, and that will give you access to the tuning. Yes, there is a send and return, and you can add extra effects, and they are just after the delay if you put something in the send and return. There is the stereo output from the chorus, and finally it's got a standard 9-volt input. It doesn't take batteries, by the way. So just to round up, at the price these are second hand, as I say, I picked mine up for a bit less than £100, but I've seen them go for £70, which is maybe the price of 1 or 2 pedals. You actually get 5. Okay, the compressor's not that useful, but it is quite handy as a mute. You've got the really good Boss OS2 overdrive distortion, a delay, a noise suppressor so it plays nicely in your studio, and a pretty cool sounding stereo chorus. So I don't think owners of a 303 clone, or just any synth, could really go wrong in picking one of these up. I think it's a sort of semi-bargain, a bit of a secret. See you next time.